Production and revenue, I think we've really done a good job of growing that side of the business. I think, if nothing else, having the team set up like it is, I think it gives us an opportunity. We become more cognizant of that revenue stream. We become more cognizant of it costs us to soil sample. So the old thought process of, if you buy fertilizer from us, we'll do your soil sampling for you, really doesn't come into play anymore. It can't stand on its own. And to a certain point, service revenue has to have the ability to stand on its own in, whether it's agronomy, technology, precision ag, whatever you want to call it. It has to have the capability of standing on its own revenue-wise, but it doesn't necessarily, and it can't necessarily stand on its own in an overall business, because Southern States doesn't sell technology for the sake of technology. Our job is crop inputs and crop services. Just like an equipment dealer sells tractors and combines, they don't necessarily sell technology for the sake of technology.
Mm-hmm. Right. What are you able to, I mean, you mentioned the revenue side of things. You guys have certainly seen some progress there. Is there any way to characterize that, in terms of, percentages or kind of, that might be a tough thing in an organization like this, but.
It's really a tough thing to key in on, because we don't all bundle the same thing the same way. You saw really two major different markets that we deal in, with Virginia, but also in North Carolina, where Weston's from. And those markets and how the market approaches the technology is completely different. And so how we sell it in King William or at Orange Madison Co-op, they may sell it as a service package, where Weston may sell it as an overall, I have inputs and services, here's your package for the season. And so they don't necessarily match up in how we can quantify what that growth looks like. We also have services that may be used as a loss leader in some instances, but don't have a direct tie into what that loss leader was growing to sell. Namely, let's say tissue sampling. They may give the tissue sample away, but they sell nutrients, fungicides, insecticides, all of the other things in season that really drive our business, but you can't necessarily always bring those two together.
Right. But I know, you guys do kind of track certain elements of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd share that it was something like 900,000 acres that you guys had serviced
mm-hmm.
with precision. In this
Those are our active acres, yes.
Active acres. So can you talk a little bit about how those have maybe grown? Because it sounds like that's a trackable metric that you guys use.
We track a couple of different things with that. We track our overall boundary acres, and we've probably grown that by 70 or 80% in the last 3 years, year over year, and that's cumulative. But we've also started out some new practices that create active acres. So it's not just soil sampling and variable rate. Do we use Varus on an acre? That, to me, if that's done in the last 2 years, that's now an active acre, because we don't necessarily perform some of these services every year. Varus is a bit of an anomaly because it's a one-time hit, but it gets us into that next step of soil sampling or yield maps, and how does it correlate, and some of those things. So that's what we look at. But when we look at seeding acres, variable rate acres, soil sample, that's how we're trying to quantify how it's active and in that timeline.
Gotcha. So you kind of maybe have that jumping off point,
mm-hmm.
whatever that may be, and that kind of triggers that activity, and then that's, obviously would presumably then be the opportunity for you to build on that.
Mm-hmm.
So and continue to increase those acres. So okay, that makes sense. Well, and I know we talked with a couple of the staff here about obviously the service side, and you guys, are 100% service. That's the business you are in on the precision side, and how that connects with the rest of the organization. But is there a way to kind of measure how you guys have kind of grown in that area? And I know, again, without really being able to pinpoint specific maybe numbers from a financial side, but I mean, have you guys been able to kind of track or identify some signs that is kind of showing, all right, we're seeing this as a revenue generator, this is a money maker?
Well, and I think it's also given us a sign, a capability of showing some shortfalls in our business. Some of the things that we thought we were making money at, all of a sudden, some things hadn't been taken into account, and shown where we can grow in our revenue and do a better job in our overall business. But I think overall, we're seeing more of a value add sale, more of an advisory sale than we have before. And that's where we're really growing our business, because it's in an incremental stance of value add rather than commodity sell. And so again, that's hard to quantify how we want to go about with that.
Is there maybe an example or two that you would have on how that's kind of bore out? What have you seen? Maybe what are some of those value adds, or what are some of those instances where maybe it's something on the input side, or related to the application business. But have you seen some of those peripheral growth indicators, tied to the precision business?
Oh, absolutely. I think it really comes into some of those in-season services that we've really started to quantify, and the realization of what that meant really comes into play. I'll use tissue sampling as probably the biggest indicator. Southern States is tissue sampled. I mean, the industry's tissue sampled for years. And so it's not like it was new technology, but how we go about tissue sampling and what we learn from it, and how we start showing incremental change for the customer, has changed how we approached how we sell it. And so now that maybe it was a lost leader before, and just a service that we perform for them, now becomes a chargeable service that's really proven value and a return on the investment to the farmer. And that's really what I've seen, probably the biggest impact in our inputs business, because we're pinpointing where we want to go sample, what that means, and then how to fix it. And a farmer can't say, well, we walk out in the field and I say, well, that looks like a manganese deficiency. And the farmer goes, well, is it, or are you just trying to sell me manganese, type of thing. Today, when we go out and we pinpoint where we're taking that tissue sample, we get a test result back from the lab, and we show him where his deficiencies are. And now we know from science, not from opinion, what's happening. And now it is a fact, not a prediction. And I have to be careful how I say that, because I think the guys are doing a good job even when they scout it. I mean, we've been trained to do that. But now we're showing them factual numbers and quantifying how big of an impact it makes.
And that's where that ROI is coming in.
Yes.
From the investment they're making, obviously, into the services you provide. So they're seeing that value. And again, that plays into kind of that decision making. I mean, you're helping them, like you said, not just speculate, perhaps on a need, but showing them, definite deficiencies. So,
exactly.
So obviously too, then kind of looking at that agronomic side, obviously being involved in, in kind of the prescription side of things, and then obviously executing those, and that was talked about as well. But what are some of the tools that you guys are using to kind of deliver that to the customer? As far as what you're using for data processing, what you're using to kind of put those pieces together.
Our main tool is right now is Ag Studio from MapShots, and it's a very good tool for production agriculture. It gives us the opportunity to bring in a lot of different layers of data, and it's very flexible in how we can manage that data and create recommendations, scripts, whatever you want to call it, to generate an action. So that's our main data management and production tool. We're starting into a new tool. This year we signed a supply agreement with Winfield for our crop protection and seed business, but it also brought in a very good, and it's not even a precision ag tool, but R7 is a great seed tool that helps us do a better job of positioning our seed, but it also has some precision ag tools in it as well that help us in that function. It helps us move our salespeople as well as our customers into maybe a discovery program, into an evaluation program, because it's not a precision ag data management tool, but it does bode well into integrating into a precision ag program.